Haro Amakawa, a 20-year-old college student from Japan, clings to the cherished memory of his childhood best friend, Miharu Yasi. But fate takes a cruel turn when a bus accident abruptly ends his story, or so it seems. Haro's consciousness awakens in a new world, the kingdom of Beltran, inhabiting the body of a young orphan named Ryo. As the fragments of the two lives converge, Ryo struggles to reconcile Haro's memories of Japan and his own harsh reality. Confusion and belief intertwine, forcing Ryo to confront his past life and the tragedies that shaped his current one. The slums of Beltran are unforgiving. Ryo endures relentless taunts and bullying from the local thugs. He lives with often being kicked out for trivial reasons. With no support or safety, he survives by foraging wild fruits. These moments of solitude trigger vivid memories of his mother in this world, her warmth, her love, and the brutal memory of her murder. While wandering the slums, he encounters a search party led by knights and noblewomen seeking the kidnapped Princess Flora. Among them is Celia Claire, a compassionate and brilliant mage. As they question Ryo about Flora's whereabouts, Celia uses her magic to detect an overwhelming magical potential within him. Though the party doubts Ryo's capabilities, Celia recognizes something extraordinary in him. Before leaving, she gives Ryo a bag of money as a gesture of kindness. When Ryo returns to his dwelling, danger strikes. A knife suddenly pierces the bag of money, narrowly saving Ryo from a fatal wound. As he fights to defend himself, a mysterious self-like figure appears and teaches Ryo how to use magic. Guided by this newfound power, Ryo fortifies his body and turns the tide against his attacker. In the aftermath, Ryo discovers the gang he lived with is slaughtered, and among the chaos, he discovers a frightened and weak Princess Flora. Flora pleads with Ryo to help her escape, and despite the risks, he agrees, carrying her to safety. Ryo heads out to reunite with Celia and the search party. However, before he can find them, Celia and her group intercept him. Princess Christina, Flora's older sister, misinterprets the situation and accuses Ryo of lying and possibly participating in the kidnapping. Her slap and harsh words sting as Ryo finds himself dragged to the castle for interrogation, despite Flora being unable to clarify in her unconscious state. Back at the crime scene, royal investigators find a lone survivor among the wreckage. Before they can extract any information, a mysterious figure in the crowd crushes a jam, silencing the survivor and shrouding the incident in further mystery. At the castle, Ryo endures brutal interrogations, treated as a criminal instead of a hero. Beaten and on the verge of collapse, he clings to his resolve. When Flora finally awakens, she identifies Ryo as her savior, prompting Celia to rush to his aid. Finding him unconscious and battered, she uses her magic to heal him. When Ryo regains consciousness, he learns of Flora's testimony and the royal family's gratitude. The king, recognizing his bravery, grants him an audience. Moved by his plight, Celia offers to teach Ryo the etiquette needed for the occasion and to guide him as he steps into a world that is far removed from the slums. Ryo begins his journey at the Royal Beltran Academy, a prestigious institution filled with the sons and daughters of nobility. His enrollment, granted as a reward by King Philip, positions him as an anomaly among his aristocratic peers. On his first day, whispers of suspicion ripple through the classroom as he introduces himself. While some students ridicule his presence, Celia Claire, his young mentor, stands by his side, ensuring he is treated fairly. Celia recognizes Ryo's lack of formal education and offers personal tutoring to help him adapt to the academy's rigorous curriculum. After class, Ryo visits Celia's office, a small space crammed with books and papers. Embarrassed by the mess, Celia scrambles to clear a spot for Ryo to sit. Their interaction reveals Celia's astonishing achievements. Though only 12 years old, she has already graduated from the advanced class after skipping several grades. Ryo's respect for her deepens, but he surprises her in return by solving every math problem she gives him with incredible speed and accuracy. Over time, they share a heartfelt conversation. Celia learns more about Ryo, including the struggles he faced growing up in the slums and his unyielding resolve to survive. Touched by his story, Celia provides him with children's books to improve his reading skills. The next day, Ryo participates in a sword training session. His unorthodox fighting style and agility catch the attention of his instructor, who challenges him to a duel. Despite his lack of formal training, Ryo demonstrates exceptional instincts, earning praise from the instructor, who declares that he is well suited to become a knight. However, Ryo politely declines the suggestion, stating that he has no interest in joining the knights. As the final exams approach, Ryo dedicates himself to study, spending hours in the library. On exam day, his sharp intellect is on full display as he confidently completes the test. When the results are announced, the Academy is shocked to learn that Ryo has tied for first place with Princess Christina. The news sparks a wave of disbelief and hostility among the students, with many accusing Ryo of cheating. The noble Allens is particularly vocal, insisting that a commoner could never achieve such results. Amid the uproar, Celia intervenes, defending Ryo and affirming that his accomplishment is a testament to his hard work. Later in Celia's office, Ryo and his mentor discuss the challenges he faces at the Academy. Celia offers words of encouragement, and their conversation turns to Ryo's future. He reveals his desire to journey to the distant Yakumo region, the homeland of his parents. Though Celia is saddened by the thought of his departure, she supports his dream wholeheartedly. 5 years pass in the blink of an eye. The Academy announces an exchange competition with the kingdom's knights, and Ryo is selected as a representative due to his exceptional skills. The day of the competition arrives, and Ryo is pitted against Charles Aurore, a knight with a personal grudge. Years earlier, Charles had harshly interrogated Ryo during the investigation of Princess Flora's kidnapping, and the memory of that humiliation fuels his aggression. Charles fights with a level of intensity unbecoming of a knight, but Ryo remains composed. His agility, quick thinking, and innovative strategies turn the tide of the battle, and he emerges victorious. Despite Charles's protests, the crowd recognizes Ryo's skill, and he earns their respect. That evening, Charles vents his frustrations to the ambassador of the Proisa Empire, lamenting his loss to a student and revealing Ryo's past connection to the Princess Flora kidnapping case. The ambassador begins gathering information on Ryo. Graduation season looms, and Celia reviews her students' essays on their future plans. Among them, Ryo's remains blank, a quiet reflection of his singular focus on reaching the distant Yakumo region, his parents' birthplace. In class, Celia instructs her 5th and 6th graders in glow magic, a spell designed to hone mana control. The nobles in the class mock its simplicity, using it as an excuse to deride Ryo, whom they consider beneath them. When challenged to cast the spell themselves, they fumble, prompting Celia to demonstrate her unparalleled mastery by performing multiple glow spells simultaneously. After class, Stead Huguenot confronts Ryo with unfounded accusations of manipulating female students, spurred by jealousy. Celia swiftly intervenes, admonishing Stead for his baseless claims. Though the situation causes tension, Ryo's reserved demeanor leaves Princess Flora quietly distressed, wishing she could repay the kindness he once showed her. The scene shifts to the Academy's outdoor exercises, designed to test the students' military training. The task involves traversing treacherous mountainous terrain as a team. Despite Ryo's abilities, he is relegated to carrying everyone's belongings by his noble peers, an act of humiliation he endures with quiet dignity. Flora notices the injustice and offers to help, but Ryo declines. As the group traverses the forest, they are ambushed by goblins. The students fight back with magic-enhanced attacks, led by Stead, who arrogantly dismisses the encounter as insignificant. Meanwhile, Ryo's keen senses pick up on a mysterious figure observing them from the shadows. Intrigued by Ryo's potential, the figure decides to test him further. The group reaches what they believe to be a shortcut, only to find themselves at a dead end, a sheer cliff barring their way. Before they can regroup, an orc attacks, throwing them into chaos. Flora is pushed toward the cliff's edge, and without hesitation, Ryo saves her but falls off the cliff in the process. Using his innate spirit magic, Ryo survives the fall, though he still doesn't fully understand the source of his power. Back with the group, Stead seizes the opportunity to blame Ryo, accusing him of causing the chaos. Pressured by the nobles, the group's commander prioritizes Flora's safety over searching for Ryo, despite Flora's protests. Undeterred, Flora vows to save him, but her determination is stifled. The retreat is interrupted by a monstrous creature, far stronger than anything they have encountered. The students' combined magic is ineffective against the creature, leading to further chaos as everyone tries to run away. Just as the creature threatens Flora, Ryo reappears, fighting with extraordinary precision and skill to defeat the monster. With the monster defeated, Ryo has watched the team regroup, but has chosen to quietly leave the academy. A mysterious figure watching from above recognizes Ryo as a descendant of Yakov immigrants and senses the dangerous potential of his growing power. The scene comes to Celia complaining about being too strict at the academy. At the door, she hears that Duke Huger conspires with other nobles to frame Rio as a scapegoat for the orc attack in order to protect his family's influence. Later, Rio secretly visits Celia to say goodbye to her. He reveals his intention to leave the academy for the Yakumo region. Celia, although sad, supports his decision. Rio promises to write to her under the name Haruto, commemorating his past life. While embracing his future as Rio, he disappears into the night. A new threat emerges. Latifa, a skilled assassin, is tasked with eliminating Rio. After 3 days of travel since leaving the royal capital Bertrand, Rio arrives in the vibrant city of Almond, part of the neighboring kingdom of Galore, relieved to find no wanted posters here, unlike the saturated notices back in Bertrand. Rio views the opportunity to gather much-needed supplies. However, as he explores the bustling streets, he feels an eerie sense of being watched. Turning sharply, he finds nothing, but his anxiety lingers. While wandering Amond, Rio encounters a pasta soup, a dish created by Liselot, the governing figure of the city. The nostalgic taste reminds him of home, sparking a thought. Could Liselot also be from his former world? Curiosity leads him to the Lior Company, where noodles are sold. There he meets Liselot herself, disguised as a staff member named Lot. Her warm professionalism and Rio's composed politeness create a brief but notable impression. After completing his purchases, Rio pens another letter to Celia, reassuring her that no news means his safety, before departing Amon to continue his journey. In the wilderness, Rio encounters an orc girl, Latifa, lying motionless in the middle of the road. As he approaches to check on her, she ambushes him, attacking with poison. However, Rio's quick use of magic neutralizes the toxin. Latifa then engages him in a fierce fight. Despite her agility and strength, Rio subdues her and notices her terror and desperation. Using magic, he calms her down and discovers a slave collar controlling her actions. With precise spirit arts, Rio removes the collar, freeing her from its painful grip. While unconscious, Latifa recalls her past life as a human who died in a tragic bus accident before reincarnating as an enslaved orc under the control of the noble Stead. Upon awakening, she is overwhelmed with relief to find the collar removed. Through her fragmented story, Rio pieces together that Stead likely orchestrated her assassination attempt against him. Offering Latifa her freedom, Rio suggests she leave the Straw region where orcs are subjugated and travel east to the undeveloped, territories where humans and beastfolk coexist. But as Rio prepares to part ways, Latifa pleads to accompany him, confessing her fear of being alone. After some hesitation, Rio agrees on the condition that she abandons the collar for good. Latifa is grateful and begins to trust Rio as they journey together. Rio notices Latifa's familiarity with terms like spaghetti. That night, as Latifa sleeps, she mutters about missing her parents in Tokyo. Rio realizes that she is also a reincarnated soul from Earth. Determined to help her heal from her trauma, when Latifa awakens, she notices that Rio resembles her brother who rode the bus with her before reincarnation, and calls Rio brother, a nickname that surprises Rio. Latifa's sharp senses and cautious observations prove invaluable as they navigate the forest towards the undeveloped region. That night, when Latifa is plagued by nightmares, Rio uses his mental arts to soothe her, quietly vowing to protect her. However, after consoling Latifa, a sudden attack blinds Rio, leaving him vulnerable. Surrounded by a group of subhumans, their distrust of humans is palpable. Despite his impairment, Rio uses his spirit arts to sense the group's positions and calmly tries to negotiate. The group's leader, Sarah, hesitantly agrees to a dialogue, though her companions remain wary. As tensions escalate, the group discovers an unconscious Latifa in the tent. They jump to the conclusion that Rio has abducted her, ignoring his protests. Their deep-rooted mistrust of humans boils over, and they attack Rio. Rio tries to explain, while defending himself from their attacks, but he is unable to dodge and is knocked unconscious. In his unconscious state, Rio meets a mysterious spirit who reveals a profound connection to him, even addressing him by his name from his previous life. Before Rio can ask questions, he awakens, finding himself in a modest room within the subhuman village. Arcelo, a senior elf, leads the group to offer Rio a heartfelt apology for their wrongful accusations and hostility. They acknowledge the misunderstanding and thank him for rescuing Latifa from slavery. The next morning, the group escorts Rio and Latifa to their hidden village near the World Tree, a sacred landmark cloaked in an illusion visible only to those skilled in spirit arts. Rio is taken to a grand hall to meet the village elder Dominic and Arcella. The elders express their gratitude to Rio, and Rio requests that they allow Latifa to stay in their village for her safety and well-being. During the meeting, the great spirit Drew, the guardian of the World Tree, makes a sudden appearance. Drew notes the presence of a humanoid spirit residing within Rio, an incredibly rare occurrence. The elders speculate that Rio may have unknowingly formed a contract with one of the legendary spirits of the 6 elements lost in ancient history. This revelation fuels Rio's curiosity about his mysterious powers and origins. The elders unanimously decide to make Rio a saint for their elven tribe and suggest that he stay in the village to learn his supernatural powers and connect with the elven community. After Rio and Latifa settle in their new home, the open air, bath and luxurious house make Latifa ecstatic. During this period, 3 young women from the village, including Sarah, volunteer to live with Rio and Latifa to help them during their stay. During his time in the village, Rio learns advanced spirit arts from Drew and grows closer to the villagers. After living in the village for a year, the festival soon arrives, a celebration of gratitude and reverence for the blessings of the great spirit Drew. However, the peaceful scene transitions to a darker one. Rice, an ambassador from another country, leads a soldier into a cave near the village. Inside, they retrieve a dragon egg, ignoring the potential consequences. As Rice departs, his sinister smile hints at a dangerous scheme. His intentions become clear. The stolen egg will provoke a group of dragons into attacking the elven village, setting the stage for a looming conflict. Rio and Latifa have become beloved members of the village, their contributions celebrated during the Great Fest. At the grand ceremony, Drew blesses Rio as a sworn friend of the elves, and Latifa is officially welcomed as one of their own. At the festival, Sarah and Aurea, tipsy from wine and joy, try to coax Rio into being less formal with them. Latifa playfully intervenes, teasing her new sisters and lightening the mood. Encouraged, Rio admits his desire to deepen his connections. With everyone, the atmosphere is cheerful, but a sense of finality lingers. His time in the village is coming to an end. Later, Rio shares his intention to leave with Arcella, who advises him on how to tell Latifa. Meanwhile, beyond the village's protective barrier, Rice puts his sinister plans into motion. Using the dragon eggs stolen earlier, he manipulates a flock of dragons, luring them toward the village. Taking Latifa on a quiet walk, Rio asks if she enjoys living in the village. Latifa joyfully affirms, expressing her happiness with her new family and her bond with Rio. But her happiness is shattered when Rio reveals his plan to leave. Heartbroken, she begs to accompany him, fearing for her safety. Rio insists she stay, leaving Latifa to run away in tears, unable to cope with the news. As the festival is abruptly canceled due to the approaching dragons, the villagers mobilize to defend their home. Sarah and her team confront the threat in the forest, buying precious time. Meanwhile, Rice orchestrates further chaos, using the distraction to retrieve more eggs. When a soldier carrying an egg is discovered by Sarah's group, he tries to flee. Rice, ever cold and calculating, sacrifices the soldier by destroying his life-bound gem. The egg is left broken on the ground, drawing the wrath of the dragons. Latifa, wandering near the scene, stumbles upon the shattered egg and the fallen soldier. The enraged dragons descend upon her. Alo reaches her first and shields her, but the dragon's fury overwhelms them. As Latifa faces imminent danger, Rio arrives just in time. Using his immense strength and psychic abilities, he turns the tide of the battle, defeating the black dragon leading the charge. With their leader vanquished, the remaining dragons retreat. The villagers, all struck by Rio's heroism, thank him for saving their home. After the battle, Latifa apologizes for her earlier outburst, admitting her fear of abandonment and feelings of inadequacy. Rio reassures her, affirming their bond as siblings and encouraging her to grow stronger. In a tender moment, they reveal their shared secret. Both are reincarnated from Japan. This revelation strengthens their connection, and they promise to meet again someday. The next morning, the villagers gather to bid Rio farewell, presenting him with gifts: a mithril sword, black wyvern armor, and a rare temporal sword chamber to aid his journey. Latifa fearfully vows to wait for his return. As Rio departs, he promises to aid the village if ever needed, solidifying his bond with the elves. At the academy, Celia, tidying her bookshelf, wistfully reflects on how long it has been since she last heard from Rio. Rio reflects on his 2-month journey through the Yakumo region. Despite his determined search, he has uncovered no clues about his parents, Zen and Ami. The dark-haired villagers in the area remind him of his lineage, but his questions remain unanswered. Arriving in a small, serene village, Ryo meets Se and Rui, who guide him to the village chief, Yuba. In Yuba's home, Ryo respectfully shares his story and his desire to learn about his parents. Upon hearing his name, Yuba dismisses Se and Rui, wishing to speak to Ryo alone. Yuba reveals that she is Zen's mother and Ryo's grandmother, a revelation that leaves Ryo shocked and deeply emotional. He tells Yuba of his wish to build a tomb for his parents in their hometown, honoring their memory. Touched by his devotion, Yuba takes Ryo to their tomb, where he quietly pays his respects. Yuba explains that his parents left the country long ago under mysterious circumstances. Though hesitant to divulge the full story, Yuba asks Ryo to remain in the village, suggesting that the truth will be revealed in due time. As they are about to leave, Yuba reveals to Ryo that Rui was his cousin and advises him to keep his identity hidden. The following morning, Ryo greets Yuba outside his room, only to encounter Rui going out of hers. Embarrassed to find herself improperly dressed in Ryo's presence, she retreats in a fluster. Over the next few days, Ryo quickly integrates into the household, winning Yuba and Rui over with his cooking skills and his impressive use of spirit magic. While prepared to have breakfast, Ryo is introduced to Sin and his sister, Se. After breakfast, Yuba asks Sin to take Ryo on a hunting expedition to assess his skills. During the hunt, Ryo's sharp instincts and precision amaze both the hunter, Dora, and Sin. Later that evening, Ryo uses his magic to construct a bathhouse for the family, drawing the curious attention of Se and Rui. They marvel at his ingenuity, further deepening their admiration for him. As Ryo settles into life in the village, the harvest season arrives. Hearing of Ryo's combat skills, Yuba proposes that he join the village's guard escorting rice to the capital. However, their plans are interrupted by the arrival of Gan, a rude visitor from a neighboring village. Gan's disrespectful behavior toward Rui and Se leads to a tense altercation with Sin, but Yuba intervenes before the situation escalates further. Gan is reluctantly placed in temporary housing in the village. With strict instructions to stay out of trouble, Gan tries to bully Ryo, tripping himself after a failed attempt to kick him. That afternoon, the tax inspector, Saga Hate, arrives. Yuba, Ryo, and others extend him warm hospitality, while Ryo practices swordsmanship in the backyard. Rui and Se watch from a distance, fascinated. When they approach to ask about his dedication, Ryo explains that he practices to protect someone he loved as a child. The answer leaves them thoughtful, their curiosity about Ryo deepening. Late that night, Gan disrupts the village's peace, targeting Rui and Se with malicious intent. Ryo intervenes just in time, swiftly subduing Gan. Fueled by rage at the attack, Ryo nearly kills Gan but stops himself when Hate intervenes. Shaken by the intensity of his emotions, Ryo retreats to reflect under a tree. There, he confronts the anger and darkness within himself, vowing to face these feelings as he continues his journey, determined to grow stronger both physically and emotionally. The next morning, he assures Yuba that Gan and his group are being held in the capital. Yuba then asks Ryo to deliver a letter to his father, Guki, stressing the importance of the letter. A few days later, Ryo and the group arrive at the capital of the Karasuki Kingdom. As they settle in, they explore the capital. Ryo, Dora, and Sin try the local dish, kutan, savoring its nostalgic flavor. After the meal, Sin expresses gratitude to Ryo for saving his sister, solidifying their camaraderie. The next morning, Ryo accompanies Se on a shopping trip. They discuss Sin's care for Se, and Ryo's thoughtful gesture of picking out a hairpin for Se deepens her admiration for him. While in the bustling streets, Ryo prevents a noble girl, Komo, from being kidnapped, swiftly subduing the attacker and quietly departing the scene to avoid unnecessary attention. Ryo leaves a lasting impression on bystanders, though his heroism is later recognized by the nobles involved. Meanwhile, Hayat delivers Yuba's letter to Guki, sparking his curiosity about Ryo. Back at their quarters, Se treasures the hairpin Ryo selected, her gratitude and feelings for him growing. Guki and his wife, Koko, visit Ryo and reveal a shocking truth. Ryo's mother, Ami, was part of the Karasuki royal family. Guki recounts how Ryo's father, Zen, rose to prominence as a skilled warrior and how he saved his mother from an attempted kidnapping by a neighboring prince during truce celebrations. The prince, angered by Zen's actions, framed him for murder and demanded Ami's hand in marriage. With the king's secret aid, Zen and Ami fled the kingdom together. Ryo listens as Guki pieces together his parents' past, Guki then informs Rio that the king and princess wish to meet him. The following morning, Rio meets with the king, his grandfather. They wish to know about Rio's parents, and Rio tells them that both his father and mother have passed away, recounting the tragic experience of his mother being killed in front of him by Lucius, a former teammate of his father. Rio reveals that he lived as an orphan in the slums until saving a national figure at the age of 7 granted him an opportunity for education. When asked what he would do upon meeting Lucius, Rio declares his intent to seek personal vengeance. Acknowledging Rio's determination, the king proposes a sparring match between Rio and Guki to assess Rio's strength and readiness. Back at Guki's estate, Guki learns that Rio had saved his daughter, Kimomo, from an attempted abduction. The ensuing sparring match showcases Rio's extraordinary skills, seamlessly combining martial arts and swordsmanship. Even when Guki uses his ultimate technique, Rio wins by sheer prowess, earning Guki's respect and approval. Guki acknowledges Rio's readiness, and his grandfather permits him to disclose his lineage to his cousin in the village. Returning to the village, Rio stands solemnly at his parents' graves, reaffirming his commitment to protect those he loves, embracing his journey with renewed determination. In the peaceful Yakumo village, Rio decides to share a held secret with Rui. He is not only her cousin, but also a prince of the Karasuki kingdom. Though overwhelmed, Rui assures Rio that his royal status will not change how she sees him, encouraging her to address him more casually. Rio emphasizes that their familial bond remains unchanged despite his ancestry. Later, Rio quietly informs Yuba and Rui of his decision to leave the village the following year. The news casts a bittersweet shadow over their lives. While Rui is saddened, she understands that the journey is essential. Rio promises that if circumstances permit, he will one day return to the village. As the harvest season begins, the village bustles with activity. Rio immerses himself in the work, helping with planting and preparation for the upcoming festival. His unwavering dedication and humility inspire the admiration of the villagers, especially S.E., who finds herself growing increasingly fond of him. However, when Rio tells S.E. about his impending departure, her heart grows heavy with sadness. Back at home, Sin notices his sister's emotions and pieces together that Rio's departure is the source of her distress. Unable to contain his frustration, Sin confronts Rio at Yuba's house, begging him to stay in the village. Despite S.E.'s protests, Sin is insistent. Embarrassed and remorseful, S.E. later apologizes for her brother's actions. Determined to prove herself worthy of standing beside Rio, S.E. dedicates herself to constant training. As the harvest festival approaches, the villagers unite for a lively celebration filled with music, food, and laughter. The air buzzes with joy, but S.E.'s thoughts remain with Rio's impending departure. Amid the festivities, S.E. gathers her courage to speak with Rio privately. With a trembling voice, she confesses her feelings, revealing how hard she has worked in the hope of one day standing by his side. Moved by her sincerity, Rio gently declines her feelings, explaining that his journey is not one she can join. Though devastated, S.E. resolves to grow stronger, clinging to the hope that they will meet again someday. The next morning, Rio prepares to leave before sunrise. Yuba and Rui bid him a heartfelt farewell, wishing him a safe journey. As Rio reaches the edge of the village, he is surprised to find S.E. waiting for him. Summoning her courage, S.E. thanks Rio for his kindness and promises to work hard after his departure. Leaving Yakumo behind, Rio journeys back to the World Tree Elf village, where Latifa eagerly greets him with a warm embrace. That evening, Rio shares stories of his time in Yakumo, recounting his meeting with Yuba and Rui. He also reveals his intention to stay in the village for a few months before departing again, and consults the elders about constructing a portable house that could be stored in his space-time depository. The idea intrigues the elders, who begin planning how to bring Rio's vision to life. The next morning, Rio wakes to an unexpected surprise, a mysterious naked girl sleeping beside him. Rio struggles to process the situation. Just then, Sarah bursts into the room to check on him, only to be shocked by what she sees, leading to misunderstandings and chaos as Sarah jumps to conclusions about Rio and the unknown girl. Leaving the room in chaos, Rio is flustered. Latifa and the others are caught off guard when they discover a mysterious girl in Rio's room. Rio quickly attempts to explain the situation while questioning the girl, who identifies herself as a spirit, a contracted spirit bound to him. Her sudden awakening causes a stir, especially since humanoid spirits are extraordinarily rare. The girl struggles to recall her origins or how the contract with Rio had come to be. as she lacks memories of her past. Despite the odd circumstances, Rio decides to support her. The girl, in turn, offers Rio the opportunity to name her. Through telepathic communication, she reveals that she knows everything about Rio's previous life, including his previous name as Amao Haruto. After careful consideration, Rio names her Aishi, inspired by the serene and brilliant aura of his childhood, Miharu, a name that embodied the warmth and serenity of spring days. To better understand Aishi's abilities, Rio and his companions seek the guidance of Drew, a humanoid spirit residing in the elf village. Drew confirms that Aishi's existence is extraordinary, particularly since she claims an affinity for all spiritual arts, a capability unique to humanoid spirits. To gauge her strength, Drew proposes a sparring match between Rio and Aishi. During the intense duel, Aishi showcases remarkable strength and adaptability, mimicking Rio's techniques and demonstrating overwhelming power. Drew intervenes before the battle can cause damage to the village, affirming that Aishi's potential is immense but still undeveloped. In the days that follow, Rio focuses on helping Aishi adapt to her new life while continuing to train her magic. Meanwhile, Rio's portable house, a feat of engineering and spirit craftsmanship, is completed. Designed for easy transport using Rio's space-time storage, the house even includes a fully functional bathhouse. With the house ready, Rio announces his impending departure, sparking heartfelt farewells from the villagers. That evening, as Rio relaxes in the bathhouse, Latifa joins him, offering to wash his back. This moment underscores their sibling-like bond. During their conversation, Latifa reveals her past life as Endo Suzun and recognizes Rio as Amakawa Haruto, the emotional revelation confirming that they both perished in the same bus accident and were reborn in this world. Before leaving, Rio receives several gifts from the elders, including a teleportation crystal connected to the village and an artifact that can change hair color to help him on his journey to the Straw region, where he is still a wanted man. With his preparations complete, Rio bids an emotional farewell to the village and sets off with Aishi. As they journey toward the Balaam kingdom, Rio's thoughts turn to his mentor, Celia, whom he has not seen since writing her a letter. Upon arriving at the bustling capital of the Beltran kingdom, Rio finds the city alive with the festivities of a noble wedding parade. That night, he and Aishi stealthily enter the academy and approach Celia's office, only to find it empty. Fearing that Celia had resigned, Rio and Aishi use her illusionary magic to discreetly gather information from other researchers. They learn that Celia is not only still in the city, but is about to marry Duke Charles Farber, a revelation that leaves Rio stunned. Rio is shocked upon learning that Celia is set to marry Duke Charles Farber, a calculated political alliance intended to consolidate the power of the Kingdom of Beltran. The researcher sheds light on the dire political climate. The kingdom's defeat by the Prian Empire left the royal family's authority in shambles. Duke Farber's family brokered peace and used the opportunity to strengthen their influence by allying with the House of Earl Clare. Determined to uncover Celia's true feeling, Rio resolves to meet her before the wedding. Aishi offers to scout ahead using her spirit form to locate Celia within the castle grounds. When Rio raises concerns about magical detection barriers, Aishi assures him of her ability to sense and evade them. That evening, Celia dines with her father and Charles in a tense atmosphere. Charles boasts of the grandeur of their upcoming wedding and the political benefits it will bring. Subtly, he exerts his influence over Celia's father, leveraging his power to stifle any resistance. Celia quietly endures, resigning herself to the marriage to protect her family, though her heart remains heavy with regret. Later that night, Aishi successfully identifies Celia's location as Celia reads a letter from Rio and reflects on her fate. Rio infiltrates the heavily guarded estate and sneaks into her chambers. Shocked, yet overjoyed to see him, Celia embraces Rio, her emotions overwhelming her. Years have passed since their last encounter, and Rio's growth is evident in his physical strength and commanding presence. When Rio delicately raises the subject of her impending marriage, Celia insists she agreed to it, but Rio senses desperation behind her words. In a rare moment of vulnerability, Celia jokingly asks Rio if he would take her away and live together, forever. Before Rio can respond, she dismisses her question as foolish. With time running out, she urges Rio to leave before her attendants discover him. Their farewell is bittersweet, but Celia expresses her gratitude to Rio for keeping his promise to return. After leaving, Rio confides his concerns about Celia's true feelings to Aishi. She reassures him of her unwavering support and vows to help. uncover the truth behind the marriage arrangement. The next morning, as the city buzzes with anticipation for the wedding, Charles prepares for the ceremony. He is joined by Ri, a mysterious figure with a keen sensitivity to spiritual energy. Ri detects a powerful spirit nearby, but chooses to keep this observation to himself. Charles then visits Celia, admiring her beauty and introducing her to his other wives. After Charles departs, the wives subtly belittle Celia, reminding her of her subordinate position among them. As dawn breaks, the streets are filled with cheers for the silver bride. Celia, adorned in a stunning wedding dress, struggles to maintain her composure in the final moments before the ceremony begins. A relay message from Rio to Celia finds her torn, fearing for Rio's safety and not wanting him to intervene. Just as Charles prepares to escort Celia from the carriage, Rio unexpectedly appears, interrupting the ceremony. Rio's unexpected arrival at Celia's wedding shatters the serene facade of the ceremony. Charles immediately orders the guards to capture Rio, commanding them to demonstrate the strength of the kingdom's elite forces. Yet one by one, Rio dismantles their attacks with precise and devastating efficiency, breaking through the heavily fortified defenses. Rio reaches Celia without hesitation, landing a powerful punch to Charles's stomach, incapacitating him. However, Rio remains focused, knowing the dire consequences of his actions. He pretends to kidnap Celia, creating a plausible cover for their escape. Through telepathic communication, he pleads with her to reveal her true feelings, breaking through the layers of obligation and fear that have weighed her down. Initially, Celia maintains her facade, insisting that she consented to the marriage. However, Rio's heartfelt words and urgency in his voice begin to crack her resolve. Celia's defenses crumble, and for the first time, she admits her desperation and fear. With tears in her eyes, she pleads with Rio to take her away, trusting him to rescue her from a life of misery. Rio wastes no time with Celia's heartfelt plea, solidifying his resolve. He initiates their escape. As they attempt to flee, the kingdom's guards launch a relentless assault, utilizing both physical and magical attacks. Rio faces overwhelming odds but remains undeterred. His strategic brilliance and unmatched combat skills allow him to counterattack with precision. Aishi plays a crucial role, assisting Rio by creating a diversion. The plan is simple but effective. Rio acts as bait, drawing the guards' attention while Aishi escorts Celia to safety. The pursuit intensifies when Rio crosses paths with Alfred Amaror, a renowned knight known as the King's Blade. Their encounter escalates into a fierce battle, with Alfred showcasing his legendary swordsmanship. Initially, Alfred misinterprets Rio's choice to fight with the back of his blade as a sign of disrespect. Feeling insulted, Alfred launches a devastating attack, forcing Rio into a corner. However, Rio uses this opening to his advantage, escaping during the clash and leaving Alfred to question his own assumptions. Meanwhile, Aishi safely leads Celia away from the city, evading detection with her spirit arts. As Rio reunites with them, the group takes a moment to reflect on their ordeal. Celia, overwhelmed by emotions, thanks Rio for his unwavering support and for granting her the freedom to determine her own destiny. Despite the perilous circumstances, she expresses gratitude and hope, wishing to reclaim control over her life. Rio reassures her, promising to stand by her side as she navigates her newfound freedom. Their respite is short-lived. Aishi suddenly senses a new disturbance, requesting Rio to rescue them. As Rio approaches the source of the commotion, he discovers a group of captives being transported under heavy guard. To his surprise, these prisoners speak Japanese, their cries for help stirring something deep within Rio. Executing a swift and precise attack, Rio incapacitates the captors, liberating the prisoners. Among them, he is stunned to recognize Miharu Yasi, a person from his previous life.